All right, welcome back. Another Rebooting the Blue. We've got Steve Bradley here this month, and we are looking at getting tough and building your mental resilience. I don't know about everybody else, but I know that when I feel super stressed, especially like ongoing chronic stress, I often have a little thought that pops up that's like, you know what? Let's just run for the hills. We're going to go live off the land. We're going to homestead. It's going to be great. Just going to have dogs. But the problem with that kind of like escapist daydream is that, especially homesteading, like stress is going to find me, stress is going to find us everywhere, right? Um, since I'm guessing I'm not the only one whose brain does that, kind of help us understand, Steve, what's going on there.
Okay. Well, do you have my slides up yet?
Yes, yeah, we'll do
Okay,
a screen share here.
fantastic. Basically, um, I'm stating a truth that just everybody knows. Stress and anxiety are an inherent part of life. Um, we can change jobs, we can move, we can change relationships, but stress will always occur. There's not a whole lot we can do to change that. The fact that we're people, that we interact with other people in a variety of areas of our life, stress is going to be there. So the only way to escape it is to become a hermit in the middle of the forest. But even then, we still have to interact with people.
Hmm.
Um, so that's just the basic. So I pulled this off the internet, and just this is probably more of a review for all of you of just the basic sources of stress for law enforcement. Certainly, there are external stressors. I've watched many of you go through some of the negative public opinion, the media, that kind of thing. There's also organizational stressors, um, as well as the general work stressors of just doing the job itself. One type of organizational stress that people don't think about, and it's not just about dealing with your sergeants or your chief or your undersheriff or that kind of thing, but it's also dealing with changes in laws at the state level. When the state takes away a particular ability for an officer to do their job, or like Measure 110 in Oregon, it really that too can be an organizational stressor, um, because it's basically imposed on agencies throughout the state through legislative action,
Hmm.
and that's stressful too.
Hmm.
But don't forget about the personal. Um, we've got all kinds of personal stressors. And just a quick summary, I mean, we've got taxes, we've got relationships, we have finances, we have family medical problems, we have our own medical problems, challenges with child rearing. All of those get wrapped up into the different types of stress that police go through. Not the least of which is overtime, demands for overtime, mandatory overtime, especially when you want to watch a kid's baseball game or spend the night with your partner.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Tons of stuff. Yay.
so this is just a fun little GIF that I took off the internet of the different types of stressors. Another way to look at it, there's internal and there's external. External, of course, we talked about daily stressors, whether it's interacting with other people, things that we need to do. Some of them are chronic, they're not going away. Some of them are transitory. We may have them for a period of time, then they're done. Sometimes they're stage of life events. Um, Believe it or not, getting married, it can be a very powerful stressor in somebody's life, even though we generally look at that as a good thing. Same thing with having a child. So major life events, even the good ones, add stress to our lives.
Hmm.
And then, of course, then there's the trauma, whether it's work related or stuff that goes way back into our childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this left side of the screen, the internal stressors. I mean, I don't love them. I love the awareness of them, right? Because there's factors that will always put stress on us, but then there are some of those things, right, where we might have some kind of like control over the factors. And that kind of, I think, gets into that negative self-talk and unhelpful thinking styles that we've talked a little bit about in the past.
Right. The
So,
negatives.
Oh yeah. So since our brains, I mean, like you said, right? They go with us wherever we go, and stress is a universal part of life. Clearly, I think so. The control factor for us is right when we think about those negative thinking styles and self-talk, and when we think about, how resilient and adaptable are we?
Mhm. And the basic principle of resilience is what are the things that you do in your life on a regular basis that helps you deal with life stressors? Okay, very simple. The importance of the resilience, though, is when we develop these resources, um, whether they're people or activities or um, other kind of outlets that we do on a regular basis, sets us up so that when something stressful comes, we are much better able to bounce back from it.
Hmm.
That's what the resilience is.
Hmm.
And if we don't engage in a meaningful way with this type of self-care, because that's the word I tend to use, self-care, is we set ourselves up for a bigger challenge when life throws curveballs at us, whether it's our own internal stuff or the external stuff.
Right. And curveballs are guaranteed. It's not if, it's when.
So uh, there's definitely ways we can do that. One, of course, is decreasing stress.
Hmm.
Um, Some of that is generating a good stress response. When you have stress, how do you respond to that? But you just let your body do all the things that it's going to do, whether it's shakes, tension. Are you going to engage in unhelpful coping strategies, whether it's excessive alcohol use or um, some other intervention that is not helpful to you in your relationships? Um, but there's mental, there's physical, and there's emotional things that you can do. Okay, and recognize and use these resources. Um, do you have access to an EAP? I know EAP gets a bad rap, but there is some value to calling the EAP, and I can help guide people through that and kind of explain the mystery behind it. But the activities that we engage in, whether they're exercise, socialization, um, some kind of cognitive or learning skill, because when we learn new things, we feel more confident and competent and
Hmm.
able to do things. All of this works towards dealing with the stressors when it comes finally in our lives, because some way, someday, somehow, we're going to face it. We all know that. Um, so, do you remove it? Do you reduce it, or do you work through it? And finally, resetting the nervous system. A big one is yoga for first responders.
Hmm.
It's a good way to help reset the nervous system because of the breathing aspect. But you also have mindfulness techniques, which you can go on to YouTube and find plenty of them. A good one is called the Honest Guys, a couple of men that do meditation practices on YouTube. They have their own channel. Um, Engaging in spiritual practices, including developing a sense of morality, but also motivation of why we do what we do. Because when life throws stress at us, it causes us to question our beliefs and values, and being engaged either with a spiritual practice or even just some of the existential Stoic philosophy
Hmm.
that's out there can be very helpful.
Hmm.
Um, and it could even be just as basic of resetting of just observing your thoughts and your feelings and being able to kind of step back from them and recognize this is what I'm thinking right now. This is what I'm thinking about myself right now. Or um, this is how I'm feeling right now. And being able to observe that without judgment. Sometimes journaling is a great way to do that. Sometimes talking with a friend or a peer or even somebody from the peer support team.
Hmm. No, I love that. So, and a couple of things that you mentioned, I just want to plug for our Lemois folks. So we have a paid version of the Lighthouse app. So you can't get that through your Play Store. You can only get it through the QR code that we have, which just reach out to me, Steve, or I can get it to you. but that app actually has all of the agency EAP benefit information in it. So if you don't know your EAP
Mm.
benefit information, it's in the app. You can get it easily. You can also get it directly from your agency, but there's just a couple different pathways to find that info. Um, we also link in the app to some yoga classes that we've pre-screened that are available for free on YouTube. And then we have also got listed in there just some different meditations that we've pre-screened. Again, they link to videos on YouTube that are free. So that app has a lot of the stuff in it that Steve's talking about that can help to, build that window of resilience.
And as we mentioned before, part of building resilience is engaging in a variety of activities across multiple areas of your life, uh, essentially investing in yourself.
Hmm.
The key is routine engagement so that your social, emotional, and cognitive and physical components of your life are ready, there, and active, not just sitting there and not being used.
Hmm.
Uh, engaging in hobbies, um, whether it's woodworking or some kind of craft or fishing, some kind of hobby of some form.
Hmm.
You know, going for dates with your partner or your spouse, engaging in that kind of relationship because they are the most important relationship in your life. Uh, Work on reducing the shitty self-talk that we often do. I know I've done it. I've had to address that. That's where some of the previous trainings in and around the stinking thinking and the automatic negative thoughts, cognitive distortions,
Hmm.
um, but reducing some of that negative self-talk.
Hmm.
Uh, Make a decision to make one change in your life to eat healthier. It may be I stop drinking soda. It may be I decide to add one fruit in my meal a day.
Hmm.
One simple small step to get you started. For me, recently, it's been I make sure I drink a full glass of water in the morning when I get up. Um, I find that I tend to be a little dehydrated, and that gets me started. And of course, I feel quote a little bit accomplished because I did that.
Hmm.
Um, Not taking overtime every time it's offered. Some people like to take a lot of overtime for a lot of different reasons.
Hmm.
Staying connected with friends and family, particularly those outside of law enforcement. Um, Not everybody likes it, but the fact that law enforcement is a job. Yes, it consumes an awful lot of our life, but some way, someday, somehow, I'm not going to be a therapist. You're not going to be in law enforcement. Who's going to be there to for us to socialize with, support us, for us to support them? It's going to be our friends and family.
Hmm.
Okay? Getting in touch with your faith or your values. Um, Sometimes it's just hiding your phone. I know sometimes when I go to a restaurant, I may just leave the phone in the car.
Hmm.
That way, I'm not tempted to pick it up and look at it.
Hmm.
How easy is it to do that, Claire?
Oh my God, so easy, right? And like we just, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming everyone else occasionally just like finds themselves scrolling through something and doesn't actually remember intentionally picking up that phone. And that to me is so freaky.
And then the last two on the list, not ones that people let a lot of men do, but I think there is value to doing some kind of journaling, even whether
Hmm.
you want it structured or loose, whether you do it daily or as you need to. But
Hmm.
journaling can be a great way of examining your thoughts, feelings, and lessons learned in your life. What did you do well? What could you do better? And
Hmm.
then finally, of course, meditation, prayer, and mindfulness.
Hmm. I love that. And I don't know if you've heard of it, Steve, but I benefit in no way if anybody gets this, but if they need a structured journaling process, I have been loving the Big Life Journal. The woman that makes them for like little kids, I think teens and then adults. So, if you need like a structured reflection, resilience building practice, like it has some great stuff in it. So,
Mhm. And finally, kind of the big point of all of this is routine. Doing these things on a routine basis, because we never know when those life stressors or challenges are going to come out of left field.
mhm,
And being able to fall back onto what we already do what we know is good for us. Many people know that I like to run. The biggest reason I run is to run off the anxiety that I experience in life. And I will get a couple days and realize, crap, I haven't run in a couple days, and I can feel the work stress building or the anxiety building, and a run makes all the difference.
Mhm.
Um, at a future video, we're going to be talking about, inserting exercise in some form. Uh, but you know, what else can you do? Now I'm looking at the slide in front of us and reminded, what makes resilience harder. It's irregular. It's not something we do on a regular basis. We don't
Mhm.
eat healthy.
Mhm.
Um, some people drink excessive alcohol.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're overly dehydrated.
Mhm.
All the caffeine drinks that we do adds a lot of stuff to our bodies, but we tend to get dehydrated.
Mhm.
And we don't pay attention to that. Mainstream media, social media, doom scrolling.
Mhm.
Um, one of the number one recommendations for my patients when I work with them and meet them the first time is reduce mainstream media use. Many of you
Mhm.
don't have social media. That's fantastic, because there's so much garbage out there. There's a lot of opinions, and nobody listens to each other. Um, Social media has its place, but it has a lot of risk,
Mhm.
including the doom scrolling that Claire just referenced.
Mhm. I specifically cut out social media for a while, and I did find that that was like hugely beneficial.
Mhm. And of course, reminding everybody, you are not your career. Your career is part of who you are, and it often reflects your interests, your skills, your personality, but it's only part of your identity.
Mhm.
If I were to ask you, Claire, and I'm not asking you to share with the folks watching, what are three things that describes who Claire is?
Mhm.
Okay. If the number one thing is your profession,
Mhm.
I would ask you to reconsider, who is Claire? Because at the end of the day, you go home and you're a partner, you're a daughter, you might be a sister. Um, some people are parents. Um, there's more to us than just our career,
Mhm.
and keeping that in mind.
Oh yeah, that's huge. And I do want to plug in here too. Are you familiar with the work of James Clear? He's a behaviorist, I think. Um, he uh he has the book Atomic Habits. Anyways, it's phenomenal. And you can get it for free through the local library, like in person or virtually, you can get it. But he talks about systems always beat intentions. And so when it comes to, I think for folks like setting, if you want to set some self-care goals, that's fantastic. Set that goal and then design the system that is going to support you in achieving that goal. So if you say, you're going to drink more water every day. Like you set up the system, Steve, where like you take that first thing in the morning is a big glass of water, right? So you've set the exact time, how much water you're going to drink. It wasn't just a generic, like, I'm going to drink more water every day. So as people think about building in more self-care, the more that they can make it a systematic approach, the more successful they're going to be in achieving those goals.
Mhm. As you flip to the last slide, which has Chris Humphrey's phone number as well as my own, which is available for people to call 24/7. Don't worry about waking us up, because if we answer, we were already awake.
Hmm.
But we certainly will call you, if you leave a time. We certainly will call you back. But to dovetail on what you just said, making a decision to make one small change in your life, to get things started. For me, it's a glass of water. Sometimes you've heard it's making your bed. Um, when I went through a period of weight loss, because I used to weigh a heck of a lot more than I do now, one of the first things I decided to do was to cut out soda. It was something easy for me to get rid of
Hmm.
that I didn't need, and it was part of the process for what my goal was.
Hmm.
But start small.
Hmm.
Um, so.
Yeah, I like that. I think for me, like I have a reminder that goes off on my phone every day when it's time to meditate. And I might only have 2 minutes to meditate at that time. I might have 10, 15, 20 minutes to meditate, but I try to do that meditation every single day. And that little reminder from my phone is what really makes sure that that happens. So this has been awesome, Steve. Thank you so much. Hopefully people get some benefit from this and can really focus on building their resilience because regardless of what you do for work every single day, if you are in law enforcement, if you change your path, if you have a partner, if you don't have a partner, if you have kids, you don't have kids, whatever it is, right? Stressors are going to come, curveballs are going to come. And so it's the resilience that we have and the adaptability that we have that is really going to influence our experience of life when the stressors hit and when they're kind of less stress.
Mhm. And if you have a question or you want to talk about something, feel free to reach out to Chris Humphreys or myself. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, you guys are awesome resources. Thank you so much, Steve. We will see you next time.
All right, thanks.